When the first crack echoed across Harbor Bridge, panic erupted. People ran for their lives. Ambulance nurse Eleanor Harrington was transporting a heart attack patient to the hospital. As the bridge split in half, Eleanor immediately stopped the ambulance. "Stop here," she told her driver. "People might be drowning in the water below." Her driver looked at her with concern. "Eleanor, we should wait for the fire department. This is too dangerous." But Eleanor was already stepping out of the ambulance. Those sounds weren't foreign to her. In the next 45 minutes, everyone on that bridge would learn who Eleanor Harrington really was. Because some people wear nursing uniforms but never stay passive. Welcome to Hidden Legends. Before we continue with this powerful story, tell us in the comments which city you're watching from today. And if you believe stories like this deserve to be told, hit that subscribe button. Eleanor Harrington was the perfect ambulance nurse. At 35, she'd been working at Boston Emergency Medical Services for 2 years. Her partners, Oliver Kensington and Sophia LeClaire, worked flawlessly with her every shift. Patients found comfort in her calm approach. But Eleanor was different. Her equipment checks were tactically precise. Her emergency analyses ran much deeper. "Why do you look so closely?" they'd ask. "Habit," Eleanor would say. Her colleagues were puzzled. "We're ambulance crew, Eleanor, not search and rescue." Eleanor would smile and wouldn't answer. That habit came from very different places. Eleanor Harrington had joined the Army Rangers at 21. Why? After seeing her father die in a construction accident right after high school graduation, she'd made herself a promise. "I'm going to save people. I'm going to be the best." Getting selected for the 75th Ranger Regiment wasn't easy. Only 3% could pass the selection. During the 61-day Ranger School, Eleanor had pushed her physical and mental limits. But every day, she thought about her father. She'd started with Combat Engineer MOS 12B, then completed Sapper School. Explosive ordnance disposal, structural demolition, battlefield construction, all became Eleanor's expertise. For 12 years, she'd served in Afghanistan and Iraq, managing 186 successful rescue operations. In each one, she heard her father's voice. Never leave anyone behind. Her biggest operation was in Mosul. A school building collapsed by an IED attack. 83 civilians trapped under debris, under sniper fire, during an 18-hour operation. Eleanor never stopped. When she pulled out the last child, her arms were covered in blood, but she was smiling. In 2021, memories of that operation began overwhelming her. Night sweats, hearing loss, constant alertness. After a PTSD diagnosis, she was discharged and became an ambulance nurse. Same mission, different environment, but it was never easy. Eleanor's Rangers training wasn't just basic. After Ranger School at Fort Benning, she completed the Sapper Leader course, the most elite program in combat engineering. "A Ranger must be multi-purpose," said Instructor Staff Sergeant Mueller. "Combat medic, engineer, EOD specialist. You're a life-saving machine." The toughest part of her training was urban warfare scenarios. Mock operations in bombed cities, rescue simulations from collapsed buildings, maximum impact with minimal equipment. Eleanor was the best in her class at these. Sapper training was especially tough. Explosive breaching, structural analysis, improvised demolition. Instead of, "Can you blow up the wall?" the question was, "How do you safely open the wall?" Debris rescue, improvised tools, limited resource operations. Her most critical skill, vehicle rescue, and multi-person systems. During live fire exercises, they'd rescue wounded under enemy fire. Throughout 18 months of training, Eleanor never gave up. On graduation day, her family wasn't there, but she carried her father's photo. This training would be very useful on the bridge. Eleanor was on her normal shift. Mrs. Beaumont's routine transport was completed. The elderly woman was discharged, paperwork finished. They were returning to the hospital. Eleanor was organizing Mrs. Beaumont's medical forms in the ambulance. Routine discharge, successful transport, normal Tuesday afternoon. "Nurse Eleanor, thank you for taking such good care of me today," Mrs. Beaumont said gratefully. "You're welcome, Mrs. Beaumont." "You're recovering wonderfully," Eleanor said with professional warmth. But Eleanor had noticed unusual activity in radio traffic. Multiple emergency unit mobilizations, increased dispatch frequency, subtle tension, emergency dispatch activated, code red. Harbor Bridge structural collapse. Mile marker 23. Minimum 27 people trapped in water. Heavy machinery required. All available units respond. Action began instantly in the ambulance. Oliver activated sirens. Route planning. Emergency response mode. Eleanor, this is big. 27 trapped victims. Hydraulic rescue tools are at the fire department. It'll take 30 minutes, Oliver said with concern. Copy, Eleanor said. But she was conducting an internal assessment. Response time analysis, resource evaluation, rescue planning scenarios. Radio chatter continued. Multiple vehicles involved, possible structural damage, rescue equipment needed immediately. Eleanor was making different plans. Rescue scenarios were playing in her mind. They arrived at Harbor Bridge 3 minutes later. The scene was devastating. The bridge had collapsed from the middle. 27 vehicles had fallen into the Charles River. 2 cars completely crushed. 1 SUV overturned. Debris everywhere. Eleanor stepped out and quickly assessed the situation. Which vehicles were more critical? Who was more trapped? Where to start? Eleanor, this is an impossible disaster without fire department tools, Oliver said, overwhelmed. But Eleanor had completed her scene analysis. 27 trapped victims, 9 critical rescues needed, structural danger areas identified. First responders were arriving, but with limited rescue capability. Hydraulic tools were 25 minutes away. Oliver, prepare medical supplies. I'll assess the rescues, Eleanor said with calm authority. As Eleanor walked toward the wreckage, her military training kicked in. In her mind, that night in Mosul came alive. Same determination, same composure. She approached the first car, a mid-sized sedan, roof completely collapsed. Driver trapped from chest down but conscious. Metal pieces were pinning his legs. Sir, can you hear me? I'm Eleanor, an ambulance nurse. We're going to get you out, Eleanor said with a reassuring voice. The driver, a man in his 42nd, had fear in his eyes. I can't feel my legs. Is there bleeding? Am I going to die? Eleanor quickly assessed the situation. How were the metal pieces trapping him? What angle to approach? How to lift them? No, you're not going to die. I'm controlling the bleeding. We're going to get you out, Eleanor said, putting her hands under the car. She analyzed the compression angle of the metal pieces. Without a hydraulic spreader, this rescue seemed impossible. But in Eleanor's mind, that operation in Mosul came alive. There was no equipment there either. As she scanned the ambulance equipment, her eyes caught the stretcher poles, oxygen tank, medical bag straps, ranger improvisation training. Oliver, bring the stretcher poles. Sophia, oxygen tank and all straps, Eleanor said in a commanding voice. Eleanor, what are you going to do? Oliver asked anxiously. I'm going to create mechanical advantage, physics, and leverage. Eleanor positioned the stretcher poles on the car's chassis. She used the oxygen tank as a fulcrum point. She made the medical straps into safety ropes. Will this work? Sophia asked doubtfully. We lifted a Humvee like this in Fallujah, Eleanor said, placing her hands on the metal. Now be careful. No sudden movements. She activated the system. The metal pieces were slowly rising. Do you feel any pain? Eleanor asked the driver. A little, but I can handle it. Perfect. A few more centimeters. 15 minutes later, the driver's legs were free. Eleanor immediately checked his pulse, looked for fractures in his legs. There's a fracture, but no major artery damage. You're lucky, Eleanor said while establishing an IV line. We're taking you to the hospital. The driver held Eleanor's hands. How did you do this? Are you a super nurse? No, just experienced, Eleanor said with a smile. Oliver couldn't believe it. Eleanor, this is engineering level work. Where did you learn this? The second scene was more terrifying. An overturned SUV. A family of 3 trapped underneath. Mother, father, and their 8-year-old daughter, Amelia. The SUV's weight was crushing them. When Eleanor approached, she heard the child's voice. Mom, I can't breathe. This tore at Eleanor's heart. The most important rule she learned in Rangers. Save the children first. Hello, Amelia. I'm Eleanor. I'm going to get you out, okay? She called under the car. I'm scared, the little girl replied. I was scared too the first time I faced such a situation. But guess what happened? I saved everyone. I'm going to save you too. Eleanor quickly analyzed the situation. The SUV was unstable. It could tip over again. She had to approach safely. Fire Captain Fournier arrived. Ma'am, this is very dangerous. The vehicle could tip again. We should wait for hydraulic stabilizers. We don't have 20 minutes, Eleanor said determinedly. The child can't breathe. Eleanor scanned the ambulance equipment, assessed the debris pieces around, Ranger improvisation mindset. Oliver, Sophia, bring those metal beams, the oxygen tanks too. We're setting up a stabilization system. Eleanor, this is too risky, Sophia said anxiously. I've done riskier things in Afghanistan, Eleanor muttered. Then loudly, trust me. Eleanor placed the metal beams under the car at specific angles. She had to distribute the weight evenly, use the oxygen tanks as support. Amelia, now I'm going to make a tunnel for you. Can you crawl toward me? Yes. The stabilization system was working. Eleanor slowly went under the car, reached Amelia. Hello, beautiful girl. You're very brave. Amelia smiled. You're very brave too. Eleanor carefully extracted the child. Then the mother and father. A 25-minute operation. 3 lives saved. Captain Fournier watched in amazement. This is professional level stabilization. Where did you learn this? Different places, Eleanor said, but questions were multiplying now. The third rescue was the most critical. An elderly couple trapped in a rear-ended car. In their 72nd, the woman unconscious, the man having a heart attack, chest pain, left arm numbness. Beatrice. Beatrice won't wake up, the elderly man said, struggling to breathe. Eleanor quickly checked the woman. Pulse weak, breathing slow, possible head trauma. The man showed clear heart attack symptoms. This was a dual emergency. Eleanor knew from Rangers training, who's more critical? Save them first. Sophia, start cardiac protocol on the male patient. I'm getting the woman out, Eleanor said. Eleanor, you can't do this alone. The car door is jammed. Eleanor examined the car. Door hinges damaged, electrical system broken, but the window frame looked weak. We don't need hydraulic rescue tools, Eleanor said. She took the oxygen tank and metal rod from the ambulance. Controlled demolition technique. I'm going to apply pressure to the window frame's weak point. Eleanor used a metal rod as a leverage point. Opened the window frame with the oxygen tank's pressure. She'd created a passage. She reached the elderly woman. Neck injury control. Spinal immobilization. Careful extraction. Beatrice, the elderly man said. Stay calm. I'm getting your wife out. Focus on your own health, Eleanor said. After a careful 20-minute operation, she extracted the woman. Immediately established an IV line. Oxygen support, vital signs monitoring, then the male patient. Chest massage needed, heart medication, immediate transport. 2 critical patients, Eleanor told Oliver. Priority transport, cardiac emergency, call ahead. Fire Captain Fournier and his team watched. Ma'am, this level of expertise, professional emergency responder training. Eleanor hesitated. It was time to reveal her secret. Military background. Army Rangers, combat engineer, 12 years active duty. Complete silence. Rangers? Captain Fournier said respectfully. That explains everything. At Charles River Hospital, 27 victims were under treatment. Eleanor wanted to check on each one. Driver Mr. Whitaker's leg surgery was successful. Amelia's family was stable, and the elderly couple, Beatrice and Reginald, had survived their heart attacks. Nurse Eleanor, little Amelia said from her hospital bed, "You really saved me. I told my parents that the superheroes I read about in stories are real." Eleanor sat next to Amelia. "No, sweetheart, I just did my job. The real superhero is you. You are very brave. When I grow up, I want to be like you," Amelia said. "Then you'll have to work very hard. But first, get better, okay?" Dr. Voss, head of emergency services, wanted to speak with Eleanor. "Ma'am, without your intervention, we would have lost at least 15 people. This is professional rescue operation level." "Thank you, doctor. I just used my training." "What training gives such skills? They don't even teach this in medical school." Eleanor hesitated, then told the truth. 12 years, Army Rangers, combat engineer. Dr. Voss was amazed. "You're a real war veteran." Eleanor's former Rangers teammates began getting word. The first message came from Staff Sergeant Muller. "Harrington, saw you on the news. Still saving lives. Still a badass. Rangers lead the way. The most emotional message came from Lucas, the father of one of the 83 people Eleanor has saved in the Mosul operation. Eleanor, my daughter never forgot you. She's in college now, studying to be an engineer, says she wants to save people like you did. Thank you for giving me my child back. That evening, Eleanor's phone received 4-7 messages. Former platoon teammates, commanders, people from the Pentagon. They all said the same thing. Once a Ranger, always a Ranger. Eleanor's story isn't just about heroism. It's about the evolution of a service spirit, the peaceful application of warrior skills. From Army Rangers to ambulance nursing, from combat engineering to emergency rescue, from tactical response to healing touch, always serving. The Army taught fighting. Emergency medicine taught healing. The community taught that both skills are valuable. Bridge crash survivors say this when they see Eleanor: real warriors don't stop fighting. They find new battles worth fighting. Eleanor's courage that day was the civilian application of Army Rangers training. Military expertise applied in emergency rescue. I'm no longer a soldier, but the warrior spirit never ends. Service continues, mission changes. So I ask you, do you know veterans quietly serving in your emergency response community? Hidden military backgrounds silently contributing to civilian emergency services? Share your experiences in the comments, because at Hidden Legends, we believe the greatest protectors often serve in the most critical community moments. If this story moved you, share it, subscribe, and help these important veteran stories continue. See you in the next legend. And remember, in your next emergency response, ambulance call, rescue operation, you might encounter military backgrounds you're unaware of. Real heroes transform their forms of service, but their life-saving commitment is eternal.